Bill O'Brien, gone. You said it. It's about time. You want to expound?
Just, you know what, Chris? First of all, I'll be the first one to say I'm against coaches being general managers. I think there's a conflict of interest.
Absolutely.
I think you need two people doing that job, Chris. I really do. I don't care how. I remember Bill Parcells. You remember that. If I'm making the dinner, I want to buy the groceries. You know, that was his, and everybody can't do it, Chris. Everybody can't do it. And we've seen Bill O'Brien, make mistakes with different players. Hopkins, they traded away.
Terrible
a lot of people
trade.
You can't trade away your best players. I don't care. You got to be able to figure it out, Chris, and work with people. We don't have to be buddy-buddy. We don't have to love each other, right? A working relationship is what sometimes you have to do. And the same thing we saw with the Lions and Darius Slay, right? Same thing, Chris. He's their best DB, and they get rid of him. Have the Lions been able to stop anybody? No, you cannot do that. You just can't give away. And the Jets did the same exact thing. So we've seen these mistakes. Guys can't be general managers and coaches.
He traded away Jadeveon Clowney.
Yes.
He traded away DeAndre Hopkins.
Brock Osweiler. Didn't he give him a ton of money?
Yeah.
Brock Osweiler. He gave him a ton of money. Chris, it's nothing but mistakes here. No. And they were 0-5. And rightfully so, they finally made this thing happen.
0-4.
0-4, I'm sorry. And a bad 0-4, and they got rid of him. And
I will say this. And I'm not – I agree with everything you said. It's time for him to go. However, they did have a tough schedule. So, they played 4 really tough games. Vikings obviously were struggling, but still a pretty good team in most people's eyes. So they had a tough schedule. But to your point, look at what DeAndre Hopkins is doing with Kyler Murray. You don't think he could do that with DeAndre?
You mean Kyler Murray,
Deshaun
the MVP?
Watson?
Kyler Murray, the MVP?
According to Martin Weiss. But he has done it with Deshaun Watson. And that was just a terrible move. And look, one important thing for executives and coaches, but particularly even more so executives, you are not more important than superstar players. Period. You could be a great executive, but you better have some great players. Period. And you get rid of DeAndre Hopkins because you got beef, and I know he wanted extra money and all that. He's a great receiver.
Pay the man.
Yes. And so Bill O'Brien has gotten and I'm going to give him his, not flowers, but he got them to the playoffs 4 of the last 7 years or 6 years. But here's what I'd say. There comes a time where that's all he can do, right? It's evident that that's what he is. He'll get you there, but he can't take you any further. That was the case with our man in Cincinnati, right?
Marvin Lewis.
Yes, who did it, especially in hindsight.
They made the playoffs a ton of times, Chris. They could.
Right.
He was 0-7 in the playoffs. At some point, you got to say, okay, we gave the guy a shot.
It happens
he can't
in
get
other
us there.
sports too. Yep, Dwayne Casey, who is a good coach. Now he's in Detroit. He was in Toronto, Rob, right? They
Couldn't
kept
get
getting
over the
there.
hump.
They were, right, and Nick Nurse comes in, gets them over the hump. Sometimes, even in a good situation, and I'm not saying this was good, but it wasn't horrible because, again, they were essentially almost a perennial playoff team under O'Brien, but he couldn't take them to the next level. And this year, it looked like he wasn't even going to take them to the playoff level. So I think this is a good move. Romeo Crennel is brought in to replace him. And let's not bypass the Romeo Crennel thing, because obviously, like O'Brien, he is a Bill Belichick disciple. All right? And Rob,
should you call him a disciple or a heathen because they don't win?
What is it now? You got O'Brien in Houston who gets fired. You got Crennel who failed as a head coach. You got our friend and did a good job in some places, but obviously out of the league right now as a head coach, Eric Mangini.
Yep. Eric Mangenius. At one point.
Was good with the Jets, yep. And then it kind of fell through in Cleveland and all that. Joe Judge off to a rough start. my gosh, rough is an understatement.
Right, bad.
You know, Matt Patricia in
Terrible.
Detroit,
who should be fired. Did you watch? Did you see that game, Chris? Up 14-0, gave up 5 straight scores.
That's their MO.
And what you call it? Like look at New Orleans. No Thomas. They don't even have their best player, Chris.
Right,
and you get shredded like the Saints did to the Lions. And now they've lost, what is it, 12 of 13? I mean, come on.
Well, considering you fired the guy who was there before him for making the playoffs 2 out of 4 years and going 9-7 his last 2 years, and you said 9 wins is not enough. You barely got 9 wins in the 3 years of Patricia.
You got 10-25, right? 10, 25, and 1.
And then Brian Flores, who's give him a little time, but he looked like a nice breath of fresh air on the Belichick coaching tree last year.
Right, and now they took a step back.
Start. Yeah, 1-3. So and you and I have talked about this before, Rob. And I'm an old school guy. I think I'm a little more old school than you. Even though you're old, you're just plain old. I'm a little old school. All right, I don't mind a hard coach, a rugged coach, a coach who runs things. I'm fine with that. But you have to have the pedigree. I mean, it's high school you don't. College you might not have to.
College you don't because you have this scholarship in your back pocket, Chris, so you can get away with it.
In the pros, baby, you better have the pedigree. Or you better have some other way of getting their respect, which is probably winning right away, right? Because if it doesn't work, if you don't win or they don't respect you because you don't have the pedigree, it could be ugly, and that's what we see with Matt Patricia. Coming in with this swag. I've heard pro athletes tell me about coaches who came in with major swag, right? And they hadn't earned it in the players' eyes. The players are like, oh, he got swag like he's a multiple champion, but he's done nothing, and they don't respect that. And that's what I see, Rob, with a lot of not every single one of them, but a lot of the Belichick disciples. They try to run that Patriot way, right? And it just doesn't work. It's not working for Judge. It's not working for Patricia. Charlie Weiss.
Charlie Weiss failed at. If you remember, what was his name, Chris? Winningham was the coach before Charlie Weiss.
Off to a nice start there.
I forgot his last, but
Tyrone Willingham.
Yep. And Weiss took his players. You remember, like the first year and first or second year, and they excelled. They gave him a big contract, and then when all his recruits came, Notre Dame went down the tank, and they wound up firing him.
Right.
So all I'm saying is most of these guys have failed, haven't done well, and I think that the Belichick, I would be against hiring anybody from his tree.
Well,
and even Josh McDaniels
I was going to say, interesting. He's rumored.
Yeah,
now,
he's always
rumored. But he's rumored to maybe replace O'Brien in Texas.
Well, he's always rumored, Chris. He got the job. You remember he lost it in Denver. You know why he lost it? 2 reasons.
Well, he was 11-17, so that's one.
But he also moved up to take Tim Tebow in the draft, and he also got busted videotaping another opponent on the road. You remember that? That's what got him fired.
That's another thing Belichick can do that no one else can do. Right. All right? You can't take that on the road. That's a Belichick thing. Don't try to copy that. Now, I hear you, Rob, and you're right. Look, some guys are meant to be like, it's like, Rob, when you hear people talk about owning a business, right? Let's be an entrepreneur. Everybody's on the entrepreneur. And that's great. I think we should promote that. Owning your own business, be an entrepreneur. But guess what? Everybody can't be an entrepreneur.
Right.
I mean, number one, you might not be built for it. It might not be your strengths. But number two, some people have to work for entrepreneurs. Some people are going to be employees.
Everybody can't be the boss.
You and I are employees. I mean, you own some stuff too,
right,
with your businesses, but we're also employees, and we're doing fine with that. And some of these guys are built to be coordinators or position coaches. They may be great at that, but they're not meant to be the head guy. And it seems like many of Belichick's people are meant to be, coordinators, position coaches under a guy like him. And Josh McDaniels, he's interesting. I mean, look, one job he failed. It doesn't mean he won't be successful somewhere else. We saw that with Belichick, who failed in Cleveland. But still, with the track record of these guys under Belichick, I'd be a bit hesitant. We threw it out. Why do these Belichick disciples, these people from the Belichick tree, the fruit more often than not is rotten?
It's rotten to the core.
Yes, it is. Why do you think it is? 877-99 on Fox. Your turn to tell me and Rob.
All right, let's do Mark in Maryland. You're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Mark?
Hey, first up, how you guys doing today, man?
Man, we're
Great,
doing
man.
great.
How are you?
I'm good, man. Love the show. I'm glad I can call in on Magic City Monday. Rob, you're supposed to come to NABJ in D.C. this year. We're going to party, bro.
I know.
Hey, man, I was coming too. I thought we were going to go to church. There's some good churches in D.C.
You can go to church
I'm
right after the party.
Chocolate City, you know how it is.
Yes. Hey, Mark,
but
I
look,
know. Bummed out, definitely. D.C.'s a good time.
Yeah. But look, I just think the Belichick coaching tree, I think these guys are just a little arrogant. I mean, they come off such success with a big time coach, learning just the ins and outs. But you can't take that out that door. You know what I mean? It's really tough. There's only one Belichick. I just want to throw a stat out there for you guys.
Yep.
Matt Patricia with the Lions, second half of the game, they're getting outscored by 133 points in the second half of the game. So just kind of shows you.
Just ridiculous. And you know what?
Ridiculous.
The worst part, thanks, Mark, for the call, Chris. He's a defensive coach. It's not like he's an offensive guru.
Right.
He's a defensive coach. Did you hear the excuse he said today? He got trashed by talking about, when I came to Detroit, I had a lot of work to do. What work?
What were they, like a year removed from the playoffs?
Yes, and they were 9-7. Yes.
And
that
even
ain't
if it's new players, I'm trying to remember their roster, but even if it's different players, you help bring in the different players.
Right.
I mean, come on. It's just joke.
How about Chad in Cincinnati? You're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Chad?
Hey, what's up, OG? What's up, Chris? So Bill Belichick, he has more personable skills than people give him credit for. He worked with LT, Harry Carson, a lot of those players from the Giants. His disciples don't have the same skills. And just like the last caller, he was correct. They come in a little bit more pompous and arrogant without that same grit. And I think football players relate to that no-nonsense personality that Belichick gives because he's more disciplined. So they don't have that same track record.
Right, Chad. This is what Chris was talking about. You could get away with that when you win. You can. It's hard to argue, Chris, if I'm telling you, do it this way and we win. Okay?
Yep. Right.
But if I tell you, do it this way and we lose like Matt Patricia in Detroit, right, how in the world are people going to buy into it?
Right. I'm looking at you funny now, no doubt. I think Belichick probably also has a way of making his players, maybe it's from behind closed doors that we don't see in the media, but making them know he cares. Because Rob, if people know you care, they'll take a big difference. You know what I mean? Yeah, they'll take
no doubt. Gabe in Fresno, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Gabe?
Hey, what's up, fellas?
What's up?
Hey, just wanted to say, Chris, I love what you've been doing with the Worship Wednesdays. That's pretty awesome, man.
Thank you, my man.
Amen.
Yeah. There you go. So what I was thinking was, number one, Bill Belichick is one of the greatest geniuses in the NFL as far as coaching.
And so he also cheats.
What's that?
Cheated.
He's also
past
cheated.
tense.
Yeah. I'll give you that one. But I feel like that can also be part of his downfall for some of his coaching tree. And because as a teacher, I know that when you are trying to teach someone to do something, a lot of times if you know exactly how to do it, it's just so much easier just to tell them how to do it and then sometimes do it for them. So
they don't learn on their own.
Yeah, so he's not giving that humility side of, you know what? Let me have them take this offense or this defense and do what they do. Instead, he's saying, no, this is how my team is going to work it, and this is how we're going to do it. And then on the flip side, he's changed his system so much because he does know how to work with what the talent that he has. Whereas some of his defensive coordinators, like Matt Patricia, you're saying, he's going over to this team and trying to take what he learned from Bill Belichick. Well, that might not work for his specific team. And so he's trying to, yeah.
That makes sense.